Bostrom Ministries. Beginning January 2018, Bostrom Ministries engaged in a whole new assignment by entering the airwaves of the world. Don't miss Ken and Mary Bostrom Ministries live.
Welcome back. Welcome back. I hope you're having a great day. I don't know if it's day or night where you are, but we're having fun with the tribes of Israel. You know, we've gone over the intro about the tribes, we need to understand the workings of the tribes in these last days. We went over all of the sons. We went over Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, Asher, Issachar, Zebulun, Joseph, and Benjamin. And these were exciting tribes, and we learned a lot about them. I've had people call me and say, "What tribe am I from?" And I said, "You know what? It may not be important for you to know. It's kind of like a need-to-know basis. God will let you know, but don't try to fit yourself into something." But if you look at the tribe of Benjamin was really symbolic of the church. He was the only one that was born out of bondage, out of the promised land. All the other 11 sons were born when Jacob was working for Laban, that had cheated him and connived him and for 22 years. And all the 11 sons were born then. But when they came into the promised land, then Benjamin was born. He's the only son that was named by Jacob. He was spoiled. He didn't have to work. That reminds me of the law. All those that are born under the law have to work. They have to please God. But you know, those that are born in the church, in the age of grace, we already please God. Jesus has already pleased God. So all we have to do is believe in Jesus. It sounds too good to be true, but we are blessed to be born in a generation of the grace of God, and 5 times more than the brothers. Remember when Joseph had all his brothers, and they brought Benjamin with them, and he gave all of his brothers clothing, and he gave all of his brothers food, but he gave Benjamin 5 times as much. 5 is a number of grace. And so the church has 5 times more grace than those that are born under the law. And this is a generation of undeserved, unearned, and unmerited favor. And we need to be thankful. We really need to be thankful. Now we're going to go coming to the 2 sons of Joseph. Because the 2 sons of Joseph are very important, because they actually are going to inherit some of the promised land and the blessings of God. Even if they were born in Egypt, even if their mother was an Egyptian priestess, God adopted them. There's something about adoption that we learn from the Bible. And somebody that is your own natural child, you can disinherit them. You can disinherit them. They don't get anything from you. They don't get any part of your will. You just disown them. But you cannot do that to an adopted child. That goes back into the Bible when God adopts you. And that's found in the New Testament. We're adopted by God. He cannot disown you. And so you can leave, but God's not going to disown you. Manasseh means who makes me forget. Now, what did Joseph have to forget? He had to forget that his brothers hated him, that his brothers were jealous, that his brother stripped him of his coat of many colors and threw him into an empty well, that his brothers sold him to Ishmaelites and took him to Egypt. He had to forget that he was nothing he did wrong by himself, but he was in Potiphar's house, and Potiphar's wife just blamed him. They said he tried to attack me, he tried to rape me, and he was thrown into prison. He didn't do anything wrong, and he was thrown into prison. He had to forget those things. He had to forget that no matter how much he trusted God, that he couldn't trust people. There was a baker and a butler that were thrown into prison. He interpreted their dreams, and what they dreamed came to pass. And he said, "Don't forget about me here in prison." And the butler forgot about him, didn't he? And so it was during when Pharaoh had the dreams, he said, "Oh, I forgot. There's a man in prison that interprets dreams." And Joseph came out and he interpreted the dreams of Pharaoh. Remember the 7 fat years and the 7 lean years that ate up the fat years? And actually, that's what the Lord told me about. Remember the solar eclipse in 2017? It was in August of 2017. There was a solar eclipse that went from the west coast to the east coast. It crossed over 7 cities named Salem. And so that was not an evil sign. That was a great sign over the United States. I was in Washington, D.C. watching it with my solar eclipse glasses and staying at the Trump Hotel. And I remembered, the Lord reminded me that in 2014, there's going to be another total eclipse that's going to cross the United States. It's going to come from Mexico up to Canada. And the Lord said there's going to be 7 fat years followed by 7 lean years. That's what those 2 signs mean. And if you realize from 2017 to now, we're in 2020, we've had fat years. The stock market has made more gains. There's less people unemployed, less people off welfare. Just amazing progress. And I'm seeing what the word he said come to pass. Let's get back to this. And so Pharaoh gave him a fantastic job in Egypt underneath him and made him an overseer right underneath the authority of Pharaoh. And then he gave him a wife. And we're going to talk about that in a minute. And that wife, he bore 2 sons with him. And the first one is, "I am so happy that it makes me forget the sorrow that I had of being rejected, as being accused, as being imprisoned. This is making me forget all of that." And Genesis 41:50. "And Joseph were born 2 sons before the years of famine, and came whom Asenath, the daughter of Potiphar, priest of On." Now that was not Potiphar, that was Potiphar. That was a total different name of On bore to him. Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, "For God has made me forget all my toil and all my father's house." He didn't think he'd ever see his family again. He didn't ever think he would see his father again, his brothers. Jacob didn't name any of his first 11 sons. He did change the name from Benoni to Benjamin, of Rachel's son. But here, Joseph is going to name both of his sons. God's got a name for you. He loves you. He's got a name for you. It doesn't matter if your mother or father gave you a name. God has a name for you. That was for someone. The spirit of Manasseh is being able to forget and forgive without holding a grudge. Wouldn't that be wonderful? To live in a world where people would forgive and forget. A lot of people forgive, but they're never going to forget. That means they really don't forgive. And they hold a grudge. The symbol here is a palm tree. Now there's 3,000 to 4,000 different species of palm trees in the world. Psalms 92:12 says about us, "The righteous shall flourish like a palm tree." Now the characteristics of a palm tree, I'm going to read them to you. "The tree that produces fruit will grow the best fruit in old age." I receive that word. "Strong and firm when the wind blows. They're bendable. They bend with the wind. The Chinese word for typhoon is Quinfeng, I think I said that right, meaning devil's wind. The devil may blow some mighty winds, but the Manassehite stands firm and tall. It grows in the heat of the desert. The secret is in the roots. Roots are as long as the branches. Isn't that amazing? Roots are as long as the branches. Does not need a lot of Christian companionship or churches to attend. Gets its water from hidden sources. The branches can be 10 to 50 feet long and 3 to 4 feet across. The palm tree is a symbol of victory. So here, the symbol of the tribe of Manasseh is a victory and a fruitful symbol. Amen? The gemstone for both Manasseh and Ephraim have got the gemstone of the onyx. It's the first mention on the breastplate. The month is Heshvan. The strength is the ability to forget and not hold grudges. Loyal. Wouldn't you like to have a friend like that, a Manasseh friend? They won't break under pressure. They're good judge of character, and they're organized. Now, the weaknesses is they want it right now, they're easily hurt, and they're sentimental. Now, that doesn't always work. You be strong one minute and weak the next. Wouldn't always work. Now, the prophecy that Jacob gave, so Joseph brought them down to his knees. This is when Jacob and all the other 11 brothers and all their families came out of the promised land. They came to Egypt because there was that severe famine, and so they were going to be there with Joseph. And Jacob had never met his grandsons, Joseph's boys. So Joseph brought them, and they're by his side and by his legs, right beside him. And Joseph brought them beside his knees, and he bowed down with his face to the earth. And Joseph brought them both, Ephraim on his right hand towards Israel's left hand, and Manasseh on his left hand towards Israel's right hand, and brought them near. Now watch this. Genesis 48:14. Then Israel, sometimes it's called Jacob, sometimes it's called Israel. Here Jacob is called Israel because he is going to be doing the will of God in this situation. Then Israel stretched out his right hand and laid it on Ephraim's head, and Manasseh, and his left hand on Manasseh's head, guiding his hands, knowing that Manasseh was the firstborn. And he blessed Joseph and said, God before my fathers, Abraham and Isaac, walked, the God who has fed me all my life, this day long, the angel who has redeemed me from all evils, bless thee, the lads. Let my name be upon them. He's going like this. Let my name be upon them, the name of my fathers, Abraham and Isaac. Let them grow into a multitude in the midst of the earth. Now when Joseph saw his father had laid his right hand on the head of Ephraim, Ephraim wasn't the firstborn, Ephraim was the secondborn. And Manasseh should have had the right hand, which is a hand of blessing. The hand of blessing. The right hand is a hand of blessing. This is a hand of blessing also, but it's a lesser blessing. Now, when Joseph saw that his father laid his right hand in the hand of Ephraim, it displeased him. So he took hold of his father's hands to remove it from Ephraim's head to Manasseh's head. And Joseph said to his father, Not so, my father, for this is the one as the firstborn. Put your right hand on his head. But his father refused and said, I know, my son, I know. He shall become a people. He shall be great. But truly his younger brother shall be greater than he. And his descendants shall be a multitude of nations. Many kings came out of the tribe of Ephraim. So he blessed them that day, saying, By you Israel will bless, saying, May God make you as Ephraim and as Manasseh. And he set Ephraim over Manasseh. That's not the only time in the Bible we've seen the younger one have more authority and more prominence, more grace than the older one. That's not the first time we see that. Now, on the Jewish people, when it's Shabbat on Friday evening, they follow the way the Lord set it up in Genesis. It was evening, and it was the morning, and it was the first day. And so you have the evening starts the day. And so on Friday evening, they have their seventh day rest. And they have a meal, a nice family meal. And they speak a special blessing over the children. They'll put their right hand on them. The boys, they'll speak a blessing, and they'll say, "May God make you like Ephraim and Manasseh." And then the girls, "May the Lord make you like Rachel and Leah, both of whom built the house of Israel." Now, this is what the wedding party said to Ruth when she married Boaz, as found in the book of Ruth. We need to be speaking blessing over our children. And they were speaking the blessing of be fruitful and multiply. Like Ephraim and Manasseh, they had the blessing that they were going to have great nations after them. Now Moses' prophecy, and of Joseph he said, "Blessed be the Lord in his land and with precious things, and are the tens of thousands of Ephraim, and are the thousands of Manasseh." I shortened that way up. You see that I missed several verses there. But basically, first of all, he blessed the descendants of Joseph. It's never really, there's nothing ever written that Joseph had more children. They just said, and they don't say that he had any girls. Girls are not mentioned in the Bible unless their name is there for the purpose of the story. But the boys' names are. And the only boys that's ever mentioned that Joseph had was Ephraim and Manasseh. And he said there's going to be, Ephraim is the younger, remember that? He said there's going to be 10,000s. There are 10,000s that come out of Ephraim, and there's going to be thousands come out of Manasseh. So Ephraim is going to be much more fruitful. Now this is found in the book of Jasher. When Joshua prayed, when he was in battle, and he prayed that the Lord would hold the sun, that the sun would not go down. And when it talks about that in the Bible, it says, "And the rest is written in the book of Jasher." There's another time in the Bible where it says, "And the rest is written in the book of Jasher." So it really gives us permission to go back to the book of Jasher and read many different things. And this was something really interesting that I found in the book of Jasher about Manasseh. He said, "And Manasseh, the son of Joseph, rose up to Simeon." Now, Simeon was mean. Now, I don't know if Manasseh found out that Simeon was the mean one, that Simeon was a troublemaker, that Simeon was the one that wanted to kill his father. And Manasseh smote Simeon with a heavy blow to his fist on the back of his head, and Simeon stilled of his rage. And Manasseh laid hold of Simeon and seized him violently, and he bound him and brought him into the house of confinement. And all of all the sons of Jacob were astonished at the act of the youth. This is like a young teenage boy beating up a 20, 30-year-old man. And Simeon said to his brethren, "None of you must say that this is a smiting of an Egyptian, but it is a smiting of the house of my father." And so he swore him to secrecy. You're not going to be talking about this. And it's just kind of interesting that Simeon met his match in Manasseh. Manasseh was a great fighter. So let's look at one of the great hero fighters. And I'm going to find this in Judges chapter 6. Came right to it. How about that? Now Gideon, his name means one who chops down trees to break down, mighty fighter and a destroyer. Later on, he's also going to be called Zerubbabel, which means let Baal contend, with whom the idols contend. And now here, Gideon doesn't seem like a mighty fighter when he first come and talk to him. And an angel of the Lord came and sat beneath terebinth tree, which is an Oprah, and belonged to Joash, while his son Gideon threshed wheat in a winepress in order to hide it from the Midianites. And the angel of the Lord appeared to him and said to him, "The Lord is with you, O mighty man of valor." And Gideon said to him, "O my Lord, if the Lord is with us, why then has all this happened to us, and where are his miracles?" And so that's what a lot of people are saying. God, if you really love me, why is all this happening to me? If you really love me, if you're really for me, why didn't my prayer get answered? Why did my child die? Why did my spouse die? Why are we not financially secure? There's a lot of reasons for all of that, but it's not God's problem. God is for you, and there's a lot of different things that happen in our lives, and things that we do, things that we say. There's just some things that are not seen, and if you just continue asking the Lord, He will direct your footsteps. Your footsteps are directed of the Lord. He has plans for you that's good, not for evil, just like He had plans for Gideon. And so what happened with Gideon? He asked him to prove your God and different things like that. And but when we get to the fight that he's going to have against the Midianites, remember the angel of the Lord said, "The Lord is with you, you mighty man of valor." Mighty man of valor. Well, so this mighty man of valor gets 32,000 people to fight the Midianites with him. He gets the Israelites, the people, God's people, 32,000. And then he says, "Now therefore proclaim in the hearing of the people, saying," this is what God says, "Whoever is fearful and afraid, let him depart from the Mount Gilead." And 22,000 of the people returned, and 10,000 remained. They didn't really want to fight. The church really doesn't want to fight now. We have so much spiritual warfare going on right now, but 22,000 of 32,000 didn't want to fight. They just went back home. And so God says that's still too many. If you win this battle, you're going to take all the credit. And He says, "I want you to go." And so they brought the people down to the water, and the Lord said to Gideon, "Anyone who laps the water with his tongue, as a dog laps, shall be set apart by himself, and likewise who gets down on his knees to drink. And the number of those who lap, putting their hand to their mouth, is 300 men." So there was 9,700 that put their face down to the water. They weren't being watchful. The moral of this whole thing right here is, in these last days, Jesus says, watch and pray. And if you're going to have your head down, just thinking about yourself, just thinking you're hungry, just thinking you're thirsty, myself, it's going to be a self-seeking generation. He said, I can't use them. But He said, I can use 300 who are not fearful, that are not ashamed, and they are watchful. I can use them. And the battle of the Midianites was won with shouts, with trumpets and torches under pitchers. Mighty, mighty conquered battle. And so here we see that Manasseh is the only tribe that was divided that got 2 portions of land. She got land on the east side of Jordan, got land on the west side of Jordan, and big land, a lot of land, double portion. He's the only tribe that got 2 portions. Dan got 2 portions, but one of the portions he stole. But if you remember when Reuben laid with Bilhah, after Rachel died, he laid with his handmaiden instead of going to Leah. Reuben, which is mama's boy, he was firstborn. He loved his mama, protected his mama. He went and slept with Bilhah just to be ornery against Jacob. And for that, he lost all the firstborn benefits of rulership, kingship, head of the family. That went to Judah. Priesthood, he to stand in the gap between the family and God. that went to Levi. And double portion, that went to Joseph, and it went to his sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. And even a double portion here you see with Manasseh and the land. So I hope you liked the story about Manasseh today. There's so much in that story that we can learn from. One of the things we want to remember is forgive and forget. Amen. God bless.
This is Ken and Mary Bostrom. We thank you for joining us today. We welcome you to watch us on kbntv.tv, YouTube, Facebook, mbostrom2.com. Also listen to us on WRNO Shortwave Radio. Contact us at kenbostromministries.org. God bless you today.